Hello, welcome back to Gordon's channel. I'm wearing my earphone this way because I have feedback that the volume of my previous video is not good, so I'm trying to keep the microphone closer to my mouth. And so I appreciate if anyone would leave a comment about this. So let's get started. So this session we will try to learn how to code a scroll triggered animation. So what is scroll triggered animation? So I have just finished one in my Soloran account. So it is like this. So first of all, we have some squares, and when we scroll to the there will be the animation, and when we scroll to the there will be the animation. So this is the scroll triggered animation. So we will have different learning objectives for the JavaScript part. We will learn pageYOffset and offsetTop. And for the CSS, we will learn the keyframes animation, border radius, pseudo selector, the nth-child, and nth-of-type. And we'll also cover some theory about the hash code, color code. So let's get started. So first of all, in our project, we will begin with uh, triggered, scroll triggered. I start from scratch for every of these projects. So because the more important part is that we try to learn each of these property and try to memorize them and turn it into our own knowledge. So if you don't want to know about the details, then you can just go to the source code to copy it. But then you're not learning anything. So here we are starting from scratch. So first of all, we have a document and we are going to give it a name, a title. And for the content, we are going to divide in a header, session, footer, footer, and some session. Right. So for the header, I want to be our title, scroll, triggered animation. For the footer, I want to add my own name, Gordon, on the day today is 20th, 2020. Alright, so now this is my web page. So let's go on, turn on the live server, open with live server. Yes. Yeah, so I have the content here. So let me add the styling to it. So add a new file, scroll, meaning scroll triggered dot css. So this is my CSS file, and I need to link it to here. So I need to put it in the head, link a CSS style sheet file, which is scroll triggered CSS. Right. Okay. So now let me begin. Yeah. Let me take it outside so it can be better for seeing. Okay, let me put it here. Right, now let me make it smaller. Let me add some background color, my favorite background color, which is a very subtle blue color. Okay. The RGB one has a little more in the blue, and then the color I want it to be my favorite color, 4444 and I. Right, so this is my favorite color, and then I want the footer to be smaller. The footer should be of smaller font size, smaller font size, so that it be 0.6 em, and then let it be the bottom position fixed, let it be always on the screen, but near the bottom 0.2 em, right, 0.2 em, right. I want it to be fixed here, and then for the page, if I don't want the content to be blocked by the footer, I need to have the padding at the bottom, which is about 1 em, right? So this is my padding for the body, and now I want to okay, now I want these sessions to contain some squares, for example. Let me have different sections, for example, 3 sections, for example. And let me add some color to the section. So my section, I want them to have some colors. For example, I want them to have a background color, which is um, slightly deeper, light blue. So this is the F0, F0, FF is nearly white. So for example, D0, D0, FF. Okay, now there is no nothing showing because my height is not very. I don't have the height yet, so let me set a height. Now this is light blue color. So here I have a light blue color and I have a height, and I can set a border to it. Border, say this solid. Let's say the dark color, but not this dark. So let's say 666. So this is lighter one and FF, for example. So I have a border for it, and I want it to be round border, so more not so sharp. So we give it a border radius, for example 1 em. But if you give it border radius, you also want to give it a padding 1 em. All right. So this is how to make it. And now they are stick together. So we want to give it a margin at the top, so it won't stick to uh, the section above. Let's give it 1 em. All right. Now it is apart, split apart. So this is a better one. If you don't if you want this in the whole box inside the field, you can use some calculate here. Calculate function. Calculate CSS function. You must have a space between the operators. For example, I want to be the 100 VH viewport height minus 2 em. For example, right now, if 2 em is not enough, then we can minus more. Let's say 3.5 em. Now this size is better for our screen, and we can try to screen it. We can try to enlarge it. You see that it is responsive because we have used the viewport height. So if we make a smaller screen, it's growing, and we make a larger screen, it also shrinking. So now let's try to add some content. For example, this one is story of two square, for example. So I want to so this one when I scroll to it, I want the square to collide, and here the square to move out. So that's some simple animation to demonstrate the scroll effect. So this one is the square scroll story of two squares, for example. Squares meet depart. Right. So now I have the story of two squares. They meet, they depart. So now I need to draw the squares. So here I have the div for the squares, and I have some div for the squares. The same here. Right. Now, now I want to draw the squares out. So let's go to the CSS file. Oops. Okay, if the volume is low, just let me know. So here I want to draw the CSS for the div. So div, I want it to be width and height be fixed. But I don't want to be too large, so I will use a viewport unit, which is 30 of the minimum of the field width and the field height. So now I have a square here. So now I need to add the background color to them. Background color. For example, now if for example this one is light blue, you see light blue. So if I want to change it to light green, so it is D0, and then the green FF, and then the blue D0. Now this is a very light green. Okay, with 30, 50. Now there are two because this is two div here. So let's use a div. Now we can use the pseudo code. So because these div are childs of section, so we can use the nth-child1 and nth-child2. So div colon nth-child 1 and then oh, I have clicked some button. Yeah, let me switch it off and open it again. Yeah. So here, if I second child here, let me uh, move the background color here, move the background color here, and copy it here. So now, Shift Alternate F to format it. No more format for CSS, so let's indent it manually. So now we want to make this say light red, so let's give it light red. You can also use the color picker here, but you will need to scroll it here. It's different. So, but if I want to give it a inline look, so this is FF, this0, the red have more, so this is red more. If you want it to be darker, you use a smaller number, for example, x0, x0, and x0, x0. So if it is darker, then it will be darker. So now we have small squares, but it is not small enough, so let's make it smaller enough. Now we have small squares in each section because we are using div, so it is in general all the 6 div are squares, and then div nth-child 1 applies to all the nth-child, the first child of all the first child inside that section. So we have the same one here. Now let's try to position them. So first of all, let's try to position them with position absolute, right? Position absolute, top 50%, left 50%. Okay, now all the squares will be positioned relative to the body. You see, all the square overlap because absolute, when you use absolute positioning, you need to care about the parent. So if the parent doesn't have positioning, then it will be respective to the body. So here you need to add a position to the sections, position relative. You don't need to add the top left, just add position relative. And now they will go back to uh, each of their own session. So now let's add the percent. Now all the div are inside the same with the same left. So now the red one is covering the green one. So now we need to do some slight adjustment. So for the MSHA one, for example, let's say for the first session, I want them to be just separate. So for the first session, nth-of-type. Okay. Now if we use nth-child 1, then we cannot select this section because it is the second child in body. So we don't use nth-child 1, but we can use nth-of-type 1. So because it is the first one of this type, nth-of-type 1. So now we have the first type. So let's say is first child, the first div of the first session. Then I want is translate it back, transform it with a translate, and I want it to be negative 150% and negative 50%. Now this one goes to the center of this one. If I use negative 50, negative 50, it will be the center of this one. This is the old way of centering an element because you see this top here, when you use the top and left, this 50% is relative to the parent. So 50% is relative to the parent and 50% is relative to the parent. So 50% of parent, top and left. But then here, when you use the translate, this 50% is relative to its own size, the width and the height 50%. So 50% can have different meaning. When it is in the top and left, it is relative to the parent, and if it is in the translate function, it is relative to itself. So now I want it to be a little bit left, and now I want the second one, the right one, to be a little bit right. All right, to be a little bit right. Let's say okay, let's say 50%. the second one. This one should be the second child instead of first session. So it also goes up slightly, and but it moves right slightly. So if you try to shrink it, it is always shrink. It is always responsive to the screen size because this is a viewport unit. Okay, so this is and the percentage of is relative. So this is how to make the squares in the middle. So now let's handle this to do. So for the second type, second session, first child, second session, first child, and first session, first child. So now everyone is at the same position. Now let's try to animate it. So if, for example, this one I want for the second one they meet. I want this one, the green one, to go right and the red one to go left. So I can use the keyframes animation. So now for the second one, I want to add an animation. So let's say the animation name is move, and I want it to be 800 milliseconds, and I want it to be forward, so it stay at the final position. So now let's define the move at keyframes with the S, and then I need to define the 0% and the 100%. Alright. So for the 0%, because I'm using the transform translate to fine tune it, so I'm copying the transform translate here. Transform translate here. So this one is uh, for negative 150 to, let's say, positive 50. Now if I save it, okay, I need to give a name to the keyframe, which is the name we assign in the animation. So let's say move. Let's see. Let's try it first. This one is we are defining the second one. So here, try again. You see, it's starting to move. Once the window is loaded, it starts to move to the from left to right. So let's fine tune it to not so much. Okay, let's fine tune it. So now we want it to move slightly, not so much. We want it to move slightly, not so much, but we don't need to move so much. So let's add fine tune all the animation first. Okay, let's fine tune it. Fine tune it. This one is the third one. This one is the third one too. Okay. Okay, and this one I need to copy it. Copy. This is the 2 1 2 2 3 1 3 2. Right now they all move to the same position because we haven't adjusted the numbers. So let's begin with this one. So if I am trying this one, let's say I want it to not closing at the beginning. 2 is at 50%. So here it is at a 50%, begins at 50%, and I want it to go to say 0%, and this one goes to negative 100. Right, let's try. Let's try it. Let's try it. So this one is from the, let me see, 2 2. I need to adjust this one to 2 2. Okay, so now they are meeting because they are going up from apart to meeting. You see, this one is too right, so let me not use 150, just 50. Just 50. Now refresh. You see they are meeting. If I want them to meet from farther away, for more obvious, let me enlarge it. Yeah, yeah. From 200%, 100%, that's good. So let's fine tune the beginning. So this should be 200%, and this should be 100%, right? So and for the third one, let's say I want them to be go away, just for demonstration purpose. Then I have to do the something opposite to for the 3 1 I want to do something opposite to 2 1. So negative 200 to negative 100. So here is to from negative 100 to negative 200. And for 3 2 I want it to do something opposite to 2 2. So this is from 100 to 0. So this one is from 0 to 100. right? So here, this one should be from the center, and then they depart. So this is some animation, but because we have not add the JavaScript yet, so it is start from the beginning. So now this is what we want. So let's put it aside first, and then let's go to cook the JavaScript part. So first of all, go checkout.js. Yes, it is very useful to give your uh, files a meaningful name because when your project grows, each different file you can put them together. So now I am going to use onload init, and then okay. No, I don't need onload init because I can use the defer here. So if I have here, after linking the style sheet, I can use script, and then I can use the src. So it will auto select for us, and then you can choose defer. So this means that it will load after the Windows or the content load. So I can use the defer. So I don't need to use the on load, but I can now set a on scroll. When I just type on scroll, it means that Windows dot on scroll. Okay, now I can use an arrow function, for example, just to save time. So let's console log something. Let's console log the okay. So if I don't want this one to be too long because I have a small screen here, so let me deconstruct it. Although VS Code, if we type LO, it can automatically have an automatic suggestion. So if I choose this one with tab, it will use console.log. But I can also do it this way: constant log equals console. This one is for object description to take the log function out. So we can use log here, log, just log something. So now we want to check how much is scrolled. So let's go to a very useful website called JavaScript info, and let's type scroll here. So let's type the scroll, and now we should see the search result: scrolling, window size scroll, and element scroll. So we need to use the element scroll. So here we have different. Let me enlarge study. Yeah. So now we will need to use uh, a property to check how much is scrolled. So we have two choices. One of the choice is called scroll top. One of the choice is scroll top, but there is also one other choice called page Y offset. Let me see, page Y offset. No, there's the page Y offset. Okay. Anyway, so we will use the page Y offset. So here, let's log the page Y offset. Okay. Again, if we don't use any prefix, it means that this variable is a property of the window. So here, let's console A and go to our okay, and use the console. Okay, let me shrink it a little bit and give some weight to the console. Okay. Now when we scroll it, we can see that there is the number is keep updating. When we are at the top, the number is 0 because we don't have a page wide offset. But if we start scrolling, it starts to have a larger and larger page wide offset. So this number is how much we have scrolled for this page. So now this one is one of the figure that we want to use. Okay, and then let's get the elements. So we have many choices. For example, get elements by ID, by tag names. You can get element by ID, get element by ID. Okay, so all these are some different good choices, but because I want to demonstrate how to get without ID, so I will use the get ID. So suppose now we are using get elements by tag name first. Let's try this. So now I don't want to type this every time. So again, I go to define a very simple function for myself. So if I have a function with the parameter tag, then I will return the document dot get elements by turning, right, with the tag as the argument. So here this one is getting the node list, and now let me use the $. So let's console log it first. Console log the $. Let's see, we are getting the sessions. Right now, if we start it, we can see that we have get 3 sessions here. So now, let's try now. If we have this HTML collection, and if we try to use and follow the ESX for each function, we should get an error. Let me try. Yes, you see, this one not HTML element dot for each is not function because for each is an array function. So now we need to use. We have 2 ways here. The first one is use array.from, and then input this one, the HTML list. But the more succinct way is to use the spread operator. So we can use the spread operator one and put this here, right? Put this here, and then put this here, right? All right. Now let me do this again. So first of all, we have the spread operator, square bracket, dot, and then we go get the element section, for example, and then dot for each. Now, if we don't have put any argument or entry, the error message is different. Let's try. You see, now undefined is not a function and array for each. So we have successfully converted it to an array, and we can use the for each function, and we need to pass a function as the argument. So let's pass the function. So it has an the parameter is each of the element of the array, and then we want to do something here. So here, let's do the okay. Now we can console log something. For example, console log the position of this session. So let's check the appropriate property. So here we have for element we have width, height, and padding margin, and then we can check the offset top, scroll top, client height, client width, offset left. So now we want to use the offset top. We want to use offset top and this one offset top. So let's try to use the offset top. Offset top. Right. And catch that one because now you see offset top is not defined, and this error message is because offset top is an element property, so you need to define which element. So here the element is this session inside this list. So I use session dot offset top. Okay. So now if we save it and we scroll, we see that the number is updating with 62 485. You see, and this one it is a constant and there are 3 because we are looping over 3 different sessions, and each of them the position is fixed relative to the document. So you see 3 fixed number 62 408 and 75. And just take for example, if we don't get the session, if we get diff, then you can see that the number is always 170. So regardless of whether this div is inside this session or this square is inside this session or inside this session, they all have 170. They become a constant. So why is them a constant? Why is this one the same as this one? So here this is the explanation. Because when you use the offset top, you need to the offset top is the relative to the offset parents, and offset parent means that the parents which have a position property. So here if you look at our web page where the div all parents of the they have parent of session and uh, grandparent of body, and session because we want to position the div with position absolute, so we have add position relative to the session. So this session are the offset parent. So when you use the offset top on the div, then they will try to look at the offset top relative to the session. So here because they are trying to use the offset relative precision, so this is 170, 170, and then become constant. And if you change the screen size, then it is still constant, because if you have smaller screen, they just keep constant because it is relative to the session. So here in this case, we want to log, we want to get the session because it is different. You see, it is always constant for the different for the three different sessions. So you need to use this. And now let's try to do some comparison. If the session dot offset top is smaller than the scroll top, the page y offset, okay, and then we want to do something, and not pass the line, okay. If we scroll it, you see pass, this one pass is referring to the first one, and this one pass is referring to the second one. Let's enlarge it. And now if we move again, you see the first one is passed, second one is passed, first one not yet. And if we scroll more, the third one is also passed. But you can see that it is keep adding, checking, can keep saying pass. You see, it's pass, 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 pass. But now if you scroll back up, then it has not passed because they are all scrolled back up. So let's try to overcome this first. So how to make it only check once. So once I have passed and I have animate it, I don't want it to be animate again. So let's do this with adding a flag here. So here, because the first one I want it to stay, and I only want to animate the second and third div. So let me add here. Let me add a class name. Class name. Let's just be a very semantic one to animate. And for this one, I want it to move to. So let's call it to animate. Now, instead of getting the tagging, I want to get only to animate. Okay, so we can change it to say by classing, and if you change it, let's change it to, because this one can be more uh, better. Okay, and classing. Okay, now we are getting the an expected token. Okay, we can use the class here because class is a reserved word. You can see from the color, constant and color, they're the same color. So class is a very reserved word for declaring class. So we can use class as parameter. We can use class name. So here, if the parameter is class name, then the argument into get elements by class name is class name. Now we don't have this one. So now when we scroll, we don't check the. Okay, so now we don't have anything because I'm still inputting session as the argument, but now I should input the to enemy as the argument to query. Okay, so now when I move, we see if we moving the first one, we don't check the first one, we only check this one, which is 429, and this one, which is 796. Okay, now how to make it not check again. So let's do something. If it has passed the line, then in addition to logging pass, let's say remove the elements, remove the class name. So session dot class list dot remove. So I'm removing the class name. So the better way is to copy and paste it. Copy and paste. This is safer to avoid typo. So now it should check only once. Let me try again. So now if we scroll to here, if we have passed it, you see it has passed, and then if you scroll again, then it will not check the second one. It will only check if I have passed this one again, then because they are all passed and they have all removed these to enemy. So here, if we try to get it again, it won't have any results. You see, because now we will only check once it has passed, and it means that the animation in it has effect, then it won't want to add the animation again. So this is how to use it. So the first one is we add the class name to the session which we want to animate, and then here After we have the trigger, we can remove the class. Okay, now it is the most exciting part to add the animation to the child. But this one is the child of the school. We are checking the offset top of the session, which is a parent, and we are trying to animate this div. So let's try to use some selector and use some special way to get it. So here, the we should add some class name to it. So let's add the class name session dot class list dot add. We should add a class name that says scroll to, right? We have scroll to this one, and now we have scroll to this one. So now we can go to here and check, say it is scrolled to. So instead of letting it happen at the beginning, we should use go to dot scroll to, and then div and child. Okay, we just copied it. Now we have to decide whether nth-of-type is affecting the second one or the third one. So let's try it. So okay, copy this, okay, and then we can remove this one, remove the number one. Let's comment it out because we have done. Okay, comment this line out. Okay, now this one, if we refresh it, if we this one has not animated, but if you go to it here, okay, it's not animating. So let me see the reason. Scroll to, okay, this is wrong class name because I said scroll to, so I add the ed here, so I must follow the same one. Copy, paste. Sometimes it's just the typo. Copy and paste. Now let me save it again, and it will refresh again. So now you see this one. If we scroll to here, okay, now this one is still happening at the beginning. Let me check why. Dot scroll to nth-of-type 2 and nth-of-type 1. So I have already commented this out, so it won't happen at the beginning. So let me try again. You see, now it has not happened because I have comment out the animation property in the normal definition, so it doesn't carry out at the beginning. But I have add the animation under the scroll to uh, class, and the scroll to class is add when the scroll reach. So let me try. Yeah, you see, when the scroll reach, it is moving, it is animating because this dot scroll to is assigning the is at here is at when the scroll reach. And here this is one also very important point to note is that the nth-of-type second, nth-of-type 2 is regardless of the class. So here when you have the dot scroll to here, but it doesn't refers to the second scroll to, it refers to second of the element type. Second of type, the type is relative to the element type. So this one with the scroll to class, but it is of the session type, and the session type, this session is the second of this session type. So the nth-of-type is used in this way. Okay, so here we can after successfully understanding this, okay, we don't need this normal one here because we have the anyway to fix it. So let's do this to the others. So let's copy this and then paste it here and replace all the with the dot scroll to, dot scroll to, dot scroll to, dot scroll to, and I can remove the translate here. Okay, and here I don't need the animate at the beginning, so I am removing this animate at the beginning, and this one comment out, I can delete it too. Alright, so now it should be perfect. So now let me try again. When I scroll to there, it suddenly move, and when I scroll to there, it suddenly depart. If this one, I think it is too close. You see, if it is too close, I can do some slight adjustment to it. I can set its original position to the ending state of this one, 0, 0, 100. Let me see. Negative 100, 0. So let's let them be closer. See, I can let them be closer. Negative 100 and 0. So I want it to be closer to apart. You see, closer from closer to apart. That is better. Yeah. Let me see. Yeah. Yeah. It's good. So now instead of getting, I can stop consolidating the offset, and I can stop triggered here. Triggered because I mean the animation is triggered, and I can also try to be reverse. That we add a last name here, last session here, which is set ending. Say set ending, which I don't need to. I don't need animation, so I don't need to have this class. Okay. Now I have set ending, but I don't have the square here, so let me make it a center. So it is again very easy. So if I want this session now, I have a small quiz for you. If I want to specify the last session, what can I do? So now you can see that it is here with the last session. So you can use last of type. Last of type, you don't need to input a number because it is the last. So when I'm the last of type, I want it to be centered. I can use, for example, display first, specify content, center, and then item centers. Okay. So for example, now this one is centered, set ending. You see? So the story of two square they meet. Refresh it. Story of two square. Now nothing is animated. Now nothing is animated. When I scroll down, when I reach this one, when I scroll into it, it starts to animate. And when I scroll into it, it starts to animate. So this one is how to do the scroll triggered animation. But of course, you can be more specific. For example, I don't want it to happen at such low time. I want it to animate once it reach the screen. So you can fine tune it by minusing some half of the height here. So you can do some other calculation. But basically, the basic one to use is the offset top of the element and the page Y offset of the window. So I hope you like this video, and if you have any question, feel free to ask me in the session. And if you like my video, I hope you can subscribe to my channel so you can see my new videos at once. So thank you for watching. Bye bye.